Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have with us George Salamis. George is president and CEO of Edgewater Exploration. Edgewater can be traded as EDW on the TSX Venture. Thanks, George, for being here with us today.
Jed, great to be back chatting with you.
I'd like to discuss with you this recent news agreement to sell a royalty interest on the Corcoesto gold project. Can you tell us what the advantages are to shareholders for when the company does a royalty interest rather than equity, raising capital through equity?
Sure can. Sort of point number one on that list would be the fact that this is largely speaking a non-dilutive means of financing for the company. We had to cross the finish line in terms of our bankable feasibility study, which we were conducting now, and that requires a certain burn rate. And we faced some financing hurdles. And rather than go out and dilute our shareholder base financing at the low levels that we encountered over the summer, we thought, why not test the market and see if we could sell a royalty interest on the deposit itself. And so what our shareholders saw this morning, the announcement of this $5 million transaction to sell a royalty, was a culmination of a few months of work over the course of the summer.
And it must be it's a stamp of credibility for the project when a company in this sort of market is able to establish a royalty agreement.
Indeed, it is. In fact, the royalty buyers typically what they do, they embark upon what is a pretty lengthy due diligence process from all aspects. From a technical end, they'll go out and hire independent engineers to get an assessment on the asset. How real is it? How close to cash flow and production is it? Where the risks are, etc. So when a royalty company jumps into an opportunity like this, it's only after having done a fair bit of due diligence, especially on the technical end.
Let's talk about the project a little bit. Recently, you came out with a preliminary economic assessment. Can you review some of the highlights that the company that was interested in purchasing the royalty, some of the highlights that they were interested in?
Well, first and foremost, they look at the breakdown of resources on the project, how amenable those resources could potentially be to future mining. So they basically take our data and they rerun the numbers themselves. They rerun the resource breakdown themselves. They'll do this basically the same iteration as we did in our PEA that we released to the public in November of last year. And basically, they concluded, by way of their endorsement of this deal, that this is a good bet for potential economics in the future. Our PEA, as your listeners might recall, was looking at something in the order of 6,000 tons per day of ore processing to produce on average of about 100,000 ounces a year over 10 years. At a relatively decent cost, $700 an ounce, roughly speaking. And that premise obviously was a good little sort of money spinner for the company down the track once built. So that pushed us into what we're now into, which is the bankable study, and hence the reason why, as we get closer to the finish line, we're starting to get appetite and attraction from the royalty companies and the gold off-takers.
Let's talk about the local jurisdiction and permitting in northern Spain. Can you tell us if there's any progress in that area?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think the last time we caught up, we were just entering the period of public consultation. That period of public consultation has ended. We have gone back to the government with all of the questions that were derived from that process and answered all of those questions. And things are now largely speaking in the hands of the government and the mines minister and the minister of industry in Galicia, Spain. One of the big catalysts that I saw from sort of a company perspective that things were heading certainly in the right direction from a permitting perspective was this tremendous endorsement that the president of Galicia gave us in June of this year, right at the beginning of the summer. The president of Galicia went live, held a press conference, and discussed the details of what he was calling a strategic industrial project initiative for Corcoesto. Basically, coming out on TV and saying, "We're backing this project. We are going to help the company push it into production. We think that this is a good bet for the state of Galicia," and that set the wheels in motion to go into the strategic industrial process, which is in fact a fast-tracking mechanism for project permitting.
George, now that the royalty agreement has been entered into, what sort of position are you in now with your treasury, and what sort of catalysts do you see in the fourth quarter of 2012 going into 2013?
So currently, the Treasury stands at about $7 million, which is ample for us to get to the end of the bankable feasibility process, and that would include obviously finishing off the infill drill program. That will include the engineering related to the study. That would include the initiation of certain land purchases in Spain. So that's basically what we're going to be focusing on over the next couple of months. In terms of catalysts, obviously the permit is a big catalyst. I think it's going to be the game changer in terms of how the investing public looks at us. We feel that permit is imminent. And in addition to that, we've got a couple other things coming up the pipeline, a new resource estimate out hopefully by the end of the year, and all culminating in the end of bankable feasibility study first quarter of next year.
Well, thanks, George, for being here with us today and giving us an update on Edgewater exploration.
Thanks, Jeb. Great to be back on your show. Thanks very much.